The struggle doesn't have to be real.
Yeah.
So I kind of wanted to start there because for some of us, the struggle is real. It's so real. Um, and I kind of want to hear, was the struggle ever real for you?
Very.
Share that with me, because I kind of like, I really like to hear, I like to hear the struggle. I like to hear where people have come from, kind of more so it can personalize it for me. So there's that part in my brain where sometimes I feel like I'm sitting on an island and I am the only person with this problem. And I'm the only one that has gone through trauma, or I'm the only one that has the level of messed upness that is going on in my brain. So I really like to hear, if you want to share,
Yeah.
um, what the struggle was like, the voices in your head, if you know what you identified with when you were struggling.
Yeah. Wow. Where do you want me to start? Because
Anywhere, just pick a spot.
sure. Well, from a very, very early age, doctors were diagnosing me. Well, my pediatrician tried to diagnose me with ADHD when I was 2. That's a very unconventional age for a diagnosis. So, moving through young childhood, I was treated for anxiety and depression. No one understood me because I was saying these are not the problems, these are the symptoms, right? The ADHD is the problem, and that's where the depression and anxiety come from. I was an only child for 8 years, and my mom had 3 kids in 4 years, so I ceased to exist unless I was hurt or bad. So guess what I was a lot,
Mm-hmm.
or helpful, right? Which
Mm-hmm.
is probably the beginning of the story that like I have to be productive, I have to be useful in some way in order to receive love. Otherwise, I'm unworthy of love and attention,
Mm-hmm.
and my needs and my emotional needs especially are not valid. Um, I had a fairly tumultuous relationship with my parents. Um, they were very, very, very Southern Baptist, and I could talk for hours about religious trauma and how it conditions us to perceive ourselves and identify as like these terrible, horrible beings that should just are just here to feel guilt and shame, without following very, very strict guidelines of something outside of us to earn the stamp of like you're good enough, you're approved, you can go to heaven. And very judgmental, like growing up in the South, right? So I'm in Tennessee. I grew up in the Bible Belt. Um, so that's just kind of the childhood stuff. Then when I was 15, I was diagnosed with degenerative disc disease. When I was 16, they found 2 herniated discs. When I was 17, I was hit by a semi truck. When I was 19, I had back surgery. And from the ages of 15 to 29, I struggled very severely with chronic pain, to the point where frequently I could not walk. I could not go to classes. I ended up dropping out of college right before my senior year. Um, I I could barely function. And the chronic pain definitely took a toll on my mental health. To add insult to injury, I was raped when I was 21, backpacking Europe, and didn't have a way to process that. I was in a country where I didn't speak the language and I didn't have any resources and I didn't know what to do. So my body did what it knew how to do, and it popped out and dissociated. And and I lived in a state of dissociation for about 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
So um came back to the States, was doing my best to heal. Um, I traveled after that, and I was volunteering in an orphanage in Cambodia, and a guy told me that I was a stupid American, and I was telling everyone back home that I was saving the world, but I was doing more harm than good. And until I had massive amounts of money, I could never make a positive impact on the world, and I was stupid for thinking otherwise. So I went home. That's when I decided not to finish my degree, because I found out that let's hope my parents never hear this, that my mom had thousands of dollars of student loans in my name that I didn't know about.
Mm.
And I was going to have to double my student loan debt in order to finish my last year of college. And I had been in pain. I'd already been in school for 4 years, but because of having to take a semester off for back surgery, and like a teacher failed me because I couldn't make it out of my bed. And she just like didn't have much patience or grace. It was going to be really challenging financially. So I dropped out and I started my first business. And a couple of years into that, had a $6 million investor. And a year and a half later, that investor pulled out. So I'd completely identified with my business. That's who I was. That's where I was going. That's what I was doing. That's what I was put on this planet to do. My partner and I were infertile, and we were stoked about that. We weren't going to have kids. I was going to change the world by making a whole lot of money and then using that money to do good in the world. And that was something that I'd known from a very early age. But then this $6 million is gone. I'm still in pain. I don't know who I am. I don't know what my direction in life is. I don't have a college degree, and I hate my life. And 6 months later, I was pregnant. Um, so a year later, I didn't know who I was or what I was doing, but I felt really, really strongly convicted that I was put on this planet to do something. Like, I'd always had a servant's heart. I knew from a really early age, like, I'm here to do, like, to make an impact and make the world a better place. But I had no idea how to do that. And I was struggling to pay my bills. I was a waitress. I was struggling to go to work on the days that I could walk. If you've heard of chronic one uppers, I was a chronic one downer. Like, you had a bad day, mine's way worse. Let me tell you about it. And let me word vomit all of my negativity all over you. I was severely overweight because I couldn't function. I never knew when I was not going to be able to take care of my child because I was in so much pain. I never knew when I would need someone to carry me to the bathroom. I never knew how I was going to pay my bills. Like, things were really, really dark.
And what kind of things were you saying to yourself in that time?
Why can't you figure this out? You know better. Why can't you do better? It was pretty much just like a downward spiral of anxiety.
Mm.
Yeah. You were meant for more. Why can't you figure it out?
Yeah.
One of the hurtful things that I've heard my entire life as someone with ADHD is like, but you have so much potential.
Mm-hmm.
Why aren't you living up to it?
Why aren't you living up to your potential? You could be so amazing.
Yeah. And I think even more insidious than the thoughts were the internalized emotions of like not feeling worthy, not feeling good enough, not feeling like I was worthy of love.
And what was the moment? What was the trigger for you that started you turning this around? Do you remember what that moment was? Was there one moment, or was it a sequence of moments?
There were two very specific moments. One of them, I'd had my anxiety attacks were increasing, and I actually had to call a friend to come and sit with me because I was like, I'm not okay. And I was hyperventilating and just like, I cannot continue down this path. And I called a friend that had a lot of depression, and I was like, I need you to come sit with me because I'm not okay. And then my fiance came home early from work and sat with me as well. And I was like, I have two choices. I can commit myself, or I've got to, like, I have to figure out how to heal because I'm not okay and this path is untenable. And with my fiance's work schedule and our new baby, our 1-year-old kid, I was like, well, I don't see it being feasible for me to be able to like go to a mental health institution right now. So I'm going to try to figure this out. And it happened to be the week just before New Year's. So I was like, okay, I'm going to use this week and I'm going to not make any changes, but I'm going to use this week to like research and try to set myself up to be as successful as possible when it comes to implementing change, because I tried to change things before, and those don't stick all the time.
I really don't. When you feel bad about yourself, it's really hard to do anything that could potentially make you feel good because your default is to feel bad.
Mm-hmm. And we can get really into that, because your ego and your nervous system, anything that's perceived as new is a threat. So you have to do some work there to be able to have a strong foundation. And I will also say that change made from a place of self-loathing and trying to fix yourself is not sustainable.
Really want to talk about those things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Change from
We'll
a
come back to
state
that.
of discipline is not the most sustainable function. But from self-love and compassion, that's where you can find that change happens really easily and really fluidly, and from a regulated nervous system. So I started doing all this research. Well, I started like just kind of like mapping out like, okay, what habits do I want to change? Like, what do I want to tweak? You know, I've got to quit drinking. I was an alcoholic. What changes do I want to start making? And that week I got so sick. I started just purging both ends. So sorry.
All good.
And while I was over the toilet, I had this light bulb moment. And it was like, you want something different, but you haven't made one single change. You want something different, but you have not done anything different. You literally all the time describe your experience as feeling like you're running your head into a wall, because you want something else so bad. You don't want this so bad, but you have not changed one single thing in your life to have that different thing, to have a different result, to be a different person.
Yeah.
So that was
this
when I
moment
really,
right now where you were, that's where I am. So I'm really, really, really super keen to hear this next part of your journey, because that's exactly where I am. I'm like, I don't want to be here. This is really hard. It's horrible. It feels horrible. Every minute there's a feeling of just complete unworthiness, just total unworthiness, and constantly feeling like a worthless sack of shit. And like no one cares. No one wants to hear from me. No one wants to know me. No one, like, why am I even here? And then sometimes I think now my daughter has probably saved me more than one time. But it's hard. It's a hard place to be, especially for my age. Like if you're in your 20s, great. Have a life change. You're meant to. But when you're in your 40s, like late 40s, it's weird. It's weird to be going through this stuff I thought I would have gone through in my 20s. And then I see people in their 20s and 30s going through this, going, yep, that's normal. I'm not normal. I'm weird. I should not be having this existential crisis in my 40s. So I really want to hear this next phase of your journey of how you went from wanting to change, knowing you weren't changing, to actually changing.
yeah. Well, really quickly, I just want you to know that I hear you
Thank you.
and I see you, and also a loving invitation to let go of that judgment. You're on your path, and everyone's path is different, and there is no perfect linear model. You're exactly where you're meant to be when you're meant to be there, and accepting that and releasing the judgment is going to make this whole process so much easier.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. So for myself, I was throwing up, and I was like, I'm literally purging negativity from my body. That's what's happening. So as soon as I could leave the bathroom, I got out my computer and I started Googling the habits of the most successful people in the world. And they had two things in common, pretty much all of them that I found. They had, they were very, very regimented with a self-care routine, because they understood that they were their biggest asset. And then their mindset. They had their mindset honed in. And so I was like, I'll start there. And I made some dietary changes, and like, made some commitments to myself, like not doing screen time and doing like listening to binaural beats or meditations before bed instead. But other than that, I made a night routine, and I was like, I'm going to take care of myself. I'm going to nurture myself, and I'm going to change my mindset. And within 4 months, my entire life was completely different.
And what did that look like? So what mindset did you shift to? What actions were you taking? What self-care were you doing that you think shifted everything for you?
I was being with my emotions. I was processing my emotions. I was allowing myself to feel them. I was journaling about my emotions, and allowing those to be okay and giving space for them. And then I was just literally being present with myself, just being present. Like, instead of having the TV on or scrolling or doing something to distract myself or make myself feel better, I would just sit and I would journal, and I would, put on lotion, light candles, have some crystals next to me, like something that made me feel good. And like, I'm a Taurus, so like, I want to feel like good and cozy, like my home is my sanctuary.
Mm-hmm.
So I just did it with like an old table I had in the garage, dusted it off, came and put it by my bed. So I had a bedside table, and then put some candles that I already had on it, and then some crystals that I already had on it. And I just journaled, and I just spent time with myself. And I wrote a letter to my womb, thanking it for everything that had endured, apologizing to it for everything I had put it through. And I went through my body. I started doing body scans on a regular basis, just like, and giving gratitude to every single part of my body for what it does, to my knees for bending, to my legs through moving me through life, for my spine for holding me upright. Just started giving gratitude to myself. And then was just thinking really, really positively. Like, instead of focusing on the things that I didn't want, I started focusing on the things that I did want and affirming them as if they were already a part of my reality. And in 4 months, like I said, my life was completely different. I found a chiropractor that, like, healed me. I'm fine now. I left a really toxic job with an abusive boss. I tripled my income. I went from a busted, broken down Pontiac to a beautiful luxury vehicle. Improved my relationship with myself, with my son, with my fiance. Like, literally every part of my life had changed. And then I plateaued. I was like, well, I'm still not getting all the way to where I want to go. So there's another layer here. So I went and got my Reiki attunement and started studying energetics more, right? Because when you're like learning about manifestation and the law of attraction, all of that stuff, it's all about energy. So I went and incorporated that and started studying energy work. And it was great and it was amazing. And it only got me so far. So I was like, there's something else missing, and it was the body. So I started diving into the body and the mind-body relationship, and that led me to the nervous system, and that led me to trauma. And I've been down the trauma rabbit hole for 3 years now, and gotten a lot of certifications and modalities under my belt along the way, and also can say that I'm in my body for, I wasn't for 15 years because it wasn't safe to be in because of the physical and emotional pain. It hurt too much to be in my body. So I wasn't, even when I started healing. I don't think that I was like fully on a pretty regular basis, because I'll still pop out from time to time when I get dysregulated. And that's a normal thing to do, but it's not living in that state. It's being able to oscillate when appropriate. So like, I, on a fairly consistent basis, am regulated and in my body. I'm embodied. And life's not perfect, but that's also not the point of this work. And a lot of people, I think, especially with like the bubblegum psychology and personal development, it's like, oh, manifestation, and like, I'm just going to create this dream life. And we have all of these influencers out here selling a lifestyle that's like, you can manifest anything you want and everything's perfect. And like, yes, you can manifest anything you want. And the point of this work is not to constantly have a smooth ocean. It's to become a better surfer.
Yeah.
Because life is always going to be life. And we're always going to have, there will be situations that come up that are going to stretch us emotionally. And the dangers that I see in a lot of the stuff that's sold to us these days is bypassing, like, positive vibes only. And that's why I'm so thankful that my work went so much deeper than mindset. Yes, it got me really, really far. Yes, it works. And there's so much more to it than just the mind. Like, the mind over matter thing is not, it ain't it, because matter matters. And the matter speaks to the mind more than the mind speaks to the matter. It's being in a harmonious relationship with both. and
Mm-hmm.
being able to say, I don't know what's going on and there's chaos around me, but I'm okay. Because there will be moments where that's going to happen. Like,
Yeah.
ultimately, the work isn't to control everything so that everything in our lives is perfect and everything is smooth and everything is everything we've ever wanted and more. Because I mean, like, how fragile is that? Because if one tiny thing goes wrong, the whole thing can shatter. And then where you are, because your identity is wrapped up in this lifestyle. And so that's not serving us on a sustainable level.
You're right. Yeah. There's so many different pathways I can go now. But I'd really love to do some nervous system, have a nervous system conversation with you, because I understand that it's really the nervous system that kind of gets fried, like around all the trauma and the beliefs in your head and the feelings. It's the nervous system that suffers the most. And for me, it's the nervous system that keeps that anxiety going, that keeps me dysregulated, keeps me disassociating, keeps me out of my body, because if I ever come back in, it's just this fried system. So I want to talk about what was it the self-care that helped regulate your nervous system? Was it the self-care, and did you focus more around your thoughts? Because I'm assuming that with the negative thoughts that were coming in, the negative beliefs that were coming in, that you had over that 15-year period, how did you deal with the negative thoughts, and did that, with those two together, be what sort of settled your nervous system? Does that make sense? Did I even articulate that well?
And honestly, like, if I knew everything I know now back then, I probably would have done it differently. Because, like I said, yes, the mindset work was very effective. And I had to go back and like work through a lot of things that I did bypass. Yes, I did do some presencing with my body, but I was still completely popped out most of the time.
Yeah.
Like, so the mindset work works. And to get to the place that I was in now, the nervous system, like if I had had nervous system regulation paired with mindset work back then, dear Lord, I would have already taken over the world and given it back. So the self-care is absolutely a foundational piece. And I don't mean self-care in the terms of like, let's go have wine night with the girls. I mean the type of self-care that requires clarity and is like deeply nourishing. So like Epsom salt baths, that qualifies. That's actually really good for you. But like doing that and like streaming your favorite show for hours, but it's just like limiting the screen time, allowing yourself space, being emotionally available for yourself, right? Being present with yourself. You feel like people in your life don't want to spend time with you. Do you want to spend time with you? Or are you avoiding yourself most of the time?
Good question.
So giving yourself the validation and the affirmation that you need. And it's, I mean, like just what you shared with me is a really great place to start. Like start looking at the things that are outside of you that are triggering you, and then turn that question around on yourself. Do I want to hear from myself? Am I open and honest with myself? Am I making contact with myself? Am I emotionally available for myself? Am I abandoning myself? Am I rejecting myself? And then start there. How do you start to show up for yourself in a loving, compassionate way that you want other people in your life to show up for you? Because the inner is only a reflection of the outer. And when the inner changes, it will change in how it's reflected back to you as well.
Yeah. Which is so for me, I opened the door when I was 30. And I used to live this is way back when The Secret first came out. Like, this was a long time ago. Even before The Secret came out, I started seeing everybody as a mirror. So if I went to the shopping center and somebody was really aggressive and angry and they weren't nice, they weren't a nice person, to go through the register with, I would take a minute and go, what is it in me that created that? Where am I being mean to myself? Where am I being harsh on myself? Where am I not caring enough about myself that I attracted somebody that was just rude and mean to me, as opposed to the register next door where there might have been somebody lovely? Why didn't I pick that one? Why is that not the one that I went down? I stopped doing that for a variety of different reasons. About 8 years ago, I stopped doing all that kind of work. And it's amazing how quickly you kind of lose all of that. I've never been big on self-care. I didn't grow up in a caring, loving environment. I never really, until now, understood the value of self-care. It's never been something that's kind of been high on my priority list. I look at self-care and I look at spending an hour in the bath and I go, oh my God, that would do my head in. I've got so much to do. I need to build chicken coops. I need to go and clean out duck enclosures. I need to deal with my kid, spend time with my daughter. I need to walk the dogs. I need to clean the kitty litter. I need to wash the dishes. In my brain, I'm going, I don't have time for self-care. And at night when I'm in bed, I'm usually lying down with my daughter and then falling asleep. Hopefully, I'm falling asleep. And then when I wake up, which I usually do probably twice a night, I'm usually waking up and then putting something on to listen to, just so I can lie there and kind of distract myself from the crazy, from the chaos, from the negativity, from just the meanness that happens inside my brain. But I really want to put that in my being of how important that self-care is. And I really heard you when you said that sitting down and journaling and being present. And as I was listening to you saying that, I could hear in my head going, yeah, I don't do that. I can say as much as I want that I'm awake and I'm aware, and I am aware, I'm acutely aware of all the negativity in my space. I'm aware of the negative thoughts. I'm aware of the negative experiences, the negative patterns. I'm aware of the trauma. But it's different with what you said of sitting down and being present with yourself and actually writing out the emotions. And what I want to ask is, when you first started doing that, and it wasn't something that you'd ever done before, did you have a lot of resistance? Was it hard, or was it really, did you come to a point where you just decided, no, I'm doing this, I'm going to do it every day, and it was something that you then did every day? Or was it something that you had to kind of work yourself up to and push past the resistance, or push past that part of you that really didn't want you to become who you are now, that didn't want you doing that self-care? Because I think for most people I know that I've talked to about this, they get a lot of pushback when they first start doing the self-care work or the self-love work, because it's not their normal patterning. It's not their habit. Their habit is to be negative. The habit is to be mean to themselves, not necessarily to other people, but to themselves. I'm lovely to other people, but to myself, I'm a cow.
People that are the nicest are the people that are the meanest to themselves. I'm sorry, my dog is being so upset that he can't get on give me 1 second because he's throwing a fit.
You're fine.
He's gonna growl at me until he gets up here.
He's fine. I have 4 dogs and 6 cats. I'm amazed that you haven't had a cat butt in your face yet.
He just he was paralyzed, and so ever since, and 4 vets told us to put him down, and I told them where they could all go, and he's fine now, but he's very cautious about jumping on things. But he also demands to be close to me, so I didn't put him up here before we got started, and he was going to make sure that I heard about it until I got him up here. So,
he's fine. He's more than welcome.
He's nesting now. My little gremlin.
Oh, he's so sweet.
He's my little therapy boy.
Oh God, he's gorgeous.
He takes care of all my clients. Anytime that I kind of like refer to myself as the emotional doula, because I allow my clients to like really get to the core wounds and feel them, and he is always glued to them, and he's the sweetest boy. So He's my therapy boy. I actually, I credit him. I had a miscarriage 2 years ago, and it was really, really, really hard. And he didn't leave my side. And so 2 months later, when he was paralyzed, I was like, "You saved me. I'm saving you, buddy." So he's my
That
little
seems
therapy.
like a fair deal.
Yeah, he's so good. But he likes to be involved in all of my sessions.
It's all good.
But to answer your questions, yeah, the resistance was real, but I also had made a commitment to myself, and I knew that like that my path was not, I would not be able to continue on my path and make it out alive. So if I was going to change, I had to change. If I was going to have a different experience, I had to be a different person. And so I just started falling in love with like who I was creating. What does she look like? What does she feel like? What does she experience? And like pin it to the wall. That is the focus. And I probably would, like I said, I would have done it differently now, or like if I knew everything then that I know now, I would have done it a little differently, because I definitely did use a lot of discipline and like some force, whereas now I would be gentler on myself and more integrated, I think. And I wouldn't have made things mean something about me, but I did, and I went hard. So I definitely was like, these are my commitments. I'm gonna do them every single day. Now I would say that was my all or nothing pattern, and if I didn't do something perfectly, then it would be complete train off the tracks. So now I would say like I can redefine consistency. I can define what consistency is to me, because even if you say like, oh well, I don't do it at all, well, you're consistent at it. You're consistently not doing it. So like, what is consistency for you? Because, and be honest, like this is what consistency is for me right now. What would I like my consistency to be? 3 days a week, 4 days a week. Or even having like, I have a menu in one of my mastermind programs. I have a menu for nervous system regulation. And it's like, here are mindfulness things, here are body things, here are breathing things, here are other things. Like here's options every single day. And like have your days where you've got a busy day, you've got a medium day, and then you've got like a luxurious day where you've got plenty of space and time. Pull from this menu, pull one thing from each section and do it. But like define what consistency is for you. So like it's like, okay, every single day I'm going to do 5 minutes, even if that's just like being really present to what's alive inside of me right now, and like a little bit of stretching before bed. Even if that's just like, okay, my bare minimum, I'm going to just like put on a meditation to fall asleep instead of falling asleep to the TV. And then like on my high energy days, or 3 days a week, or whatever you decide is your version of consistency, I'm going to show up for myself in this way. And then when I was tempted not to, I'd be like, who do I want to be? And what would she do? And then I would get up and do the thing. And speak to myself very positively the entire time. Like from the perspective of the version of me that I wanted to be. And so now I would infuse that, I think, with even more compassion, even more love. Because then it was definitely, I have to fix myself to be okay. And now it's like, I get to make these changes because they open up so much more possibility for me. I get to make these changes for myself because I deserve the freedom that comes with it.
I get that.
Because I get to show my little girl self what it looks like and feels like to be loved and cared for. And I'm going to receive that.
And what ways did you talk to yourself when you did, if you had a day when you didn't do it, if you had a day where you went back, or did you? Another question is, did you ever have a day where you dropped back into that negativity, you dropped back into the past pattern, you drop back into that past self? Did you ever have days where that past you was just so strong that you just couldn't do it?
I had a good long streak where I was in it to win it. My first day that I was tempted to, I was in a little fender bender and I was like, oh God. And like, I felt the negativity like starting to come on. And I was like, nope, this is the first thing that's really challenged you and like your mindset practice. We're not doing that. And so I just like kicked in with the affirmations, like everything is happening for my highest and greatest good. Then that fender bender ended up being the thing that got me $5,000 of free chiropractic care, which is the reason I can walk today. So staying connected to that is really helpful. But yeah, I've had months where I have trained off the tracks, right? And like reverted back to the old version of myself, months. And that's when I was like, okay, there's something else, right? There's something else here. There's another piece to this puzzle that's not getting hit, because the mindset alone and the manifestation alone is not the full picture. Otherwise I wouldn't be here again, right? And that's when I think looking at trauma is necessary, and regulating your nervous system. Because if your nervous system is dysregulated, it is going to affect your capacity to be able to hold anything, be that transformation, be that love, be that money, anything. If your nervous system is dysregulated, you do not have the capacity to hold and sustain the things that are different than what you have now.
That explains a lot. That explains so much. What did you follow anyone or do any programs, or did you do work yourself to bring your nervous system back into regulation? Were you meditating? You what?
Mm-hmm. I did a lot of work myself, and that's something that I'm still working on, is not having to do it alone, not having to do it by myself, to allow myself to. I feel so comfortable and so confident in the role as space holder, and I hold a lot of space for a lot of people, and I'm used to holding myself. So I'm like really being intentional and working on like, how do I allow other people to hold space for me in my process? And that is a challenge for me. But I've learned from a ton of amazing people. Cole Whitty is one of them. She's incredible. She and her husband, Taw Whitty, are doing amazing work in the world. They focus on psychedelics now. But that's really where I started to learn about nervous system regulation and biofeedback and the mind-body relationship. She's always been like a really, really important mentor to me. And she and I knew each other before we got into these fields. When I had my music business, I booked her. She was a touring artist, and now we're both in this field. And it's so funny to look back on where we were then when we met 15 years ago.
So I hear you talking about the self-care of sitting and having candles and taking care of yourself and having quiet time. And I look around and I go, I don't even know what that looks like. When you've got a partner, it's so much easier, because a partner can take any kids or any dogs out. Or if you want to go out, then there's a partner that can take care of your kids or your animals or whatever's in your space. It makes a difference when you're a single parent without any family around.
I get that 100%. And I feel like I do have a taste of that. My partner worked nights. And so he was gone at night and he slept all day. So I felt like a single parent for 5 years.
Yeah.
And in that situation, I just always would ask myself, am I more committed to my problems, or am I more committed to my solutions?
I guess there's always a reason, isn't there? There's always a reason to not do the work. There's always a reason. Whether it's you're too tired, or it's too hot, or it's too cold, or it's too noisy, or you've got too much to do, there's always a reason not to do it. So I admire people that have not only done the work, but done it so consistently that they're on the other side. I just think it's amazing. I don't know how any of you have done it, because it's hard. It's so hard. But talking with you and talking with the other people that I've been talking to, it kind of puts it into some kind of perspective of we all have our stories, we all have our trauma, we all have our life, we all have the beliefs that initially made us feel terrible, like terrible. Mm-hmm. Some of us feel worse than others, but we all essentially feel worthless. That's what's right at the core for most people that have gone through trauma, is we feel worthless. And to see people that have been able through that worthlessness, to see you through your story and through your journey, be able to go, you know what? I know that there's a part of me that believes I'm worthless, but if I don't do this, I'm not going to make it. And it's such a real, statement, because I'm kind of there, have been in such a similar space for such a long time, and also I'm getting to that age now where, shit starts to break down. Once you're getting into your 50s, stuff starts to fall apart and illness and disease becomes a reality because we've been holding on to that trauma for so long. We've been holding on to that pain and that hurt, that the body starts reacting, and you start getting cancer, you start getting heart disease, you start getting these things that come from holding on to the pain and the hurt of the trauma. Mm-hmm. So I really, I really felt it when you said you just got to the point where I have to do this. I either do it or I'm not going to make it.
Yeah. And you saying that, like, things start to break down at this age, they don't have to. That is a story. No. That is the truth for most people in the world. But I'm going to make a really bold statement, and I will die on this hill. 95, maybe more % of diseases are the cause of chronic stress and repressed emotions.
I would go 99%. There's a very small percentage of people that have an illness that hasn't come from some emotional trauma somewhere. And I will die on that hill with you.
Yeah. Critics, well, funny, chronic stress and trauma actually work and will alter your gene expressions.
Yes.
So, I mean, like, I have people that are like, you're ignoring science. And I'm like, no, you are. Here are studies. Go follow Dr. Gabor Mate.
Go and follow Joe Dispenza. He's got amazing information and proof of people who have healed themselves once they've gone through the trauma. And actually, I'm following a guy at the moment. His name's called Chris, and he was diagnosed with cancer in his early 20s. And he had, it was a terminal cancer. And they basically said, either do this or you're done. And he went through the journey. He went through his trauma. He not only completely changed all of his eating and his lifestyle of exercising, but he also went through, and his faith is in God. And so he sat and he started handing everything over to God. And he just said, I don't know how to heal this part of me. I'm willing to forgive and I'm willing to love, but I'm handing it over because I don't know what to do with it. And just this constant handing his hurt over and being willing to let it go, being willing to drop it and not keep holding on to it and not keep ruminating over the stories of the past. And he has miraculous stories of person after person that has followed through and done the work that he has shared, similar to Joe Dispenza. Different way, obviously. Joe is more very science-based, whereas Chris is more very experience-based. But similar stories of testimonials of people saying, I went through my trauma and now here I am, and I no longer have cancer, or I no longer have diabetes, or I no longer have heart disease. And with Joe, it's some of the people they go in blind and they walk out with sight. It's incredible how much our emotional trauma can really damage our physical body.
It's wild. And how literal the body is too. Because it's like, oh, you're having a stomach problem. Okay, what are you having an issue digesting?
Yeah.
What information, what emotions, what are you having a problem digesting?
Yeah.
Showing up.
I have a toenail that's split in half, like all the way through from the top to the bottom. And just as you were saying that, I thought about my toenail and I went, where am I split? Where am I in myself split in half? Where have I separated one aspect of myself from another aspect of self that I'm not whole? Because I have a split toenail.
And how is it keeping you from taking steps forward?
Yes. 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 Which is really, it's ironic that you say that actually, because the other day I had to chase a dog that was chasing a chicken and I ended up breaking my toe. And I've broken this same toe in the last 4 years. I think I've broken the same toe 6 times. You'd think I would have heard the message by now, but apparently I'm sitting here with my toe taped up because it's broken again. And I'm like, at which point am I going to hear what this message is about my broken toe that I keep breaking over and over and over again?
Yeah. Ask your body. Have you just sat with your body? I mean, like, here's the thing, this work gets to be simple. It is simple. It's not easy, but it is simple. It is just sitting and giving yourself the time and the space to just sit with yourself and say, what do you have for me? What are you feeling? A negative thought comes up. Where do you feel that in your body? And then allow it. Most of our suffering comes because we refuse to acknowledge something. We are resisting an emotion. We are resisting a thought. What you resist persists. And the resistance is what equals suffering. Pain in life is inevitable, but suffering is optional. And when we resist the emotions and the thoughts, that's when we're going to continue to repeat. So it's like, just create 5 minutes every single day where you just sit down and you are fully emotionally available for yourself in whatever state you're in. What state am I in? What am I feeling? I'm feeling anxiety right now. Okay, I'm going to feel it. Where am I feeling that anxiety in my body? What are these thoughts telling me? Okay, I'm going to feel it. I'm going to allow them to go. And I'm going to journal all of my, get it out. And this is where the other people will be like, no, good vibes only. Think new thoughts. Sure. But let's be present with what's alive and allow it to be, because that's the only way we're going to end the cycle. So allow it. My client the other day was like, my inner mean girl's really, really, really raising hell. And she's trying to give me, give me shit over this certain situation. I was like, okay, go to your journal and let her give you shit. Put it all on paper. Play it out. If you do things her way, what happens? And she was able to play it all out. And then at the end be like, oh, I would be in this exact same position with this resentment. Okay, great. Sit with that resentment. Where do you feel that? Allow yourself to feel the resentment. You feel angry? Feel angry. Go throw some shit. Go in your backyard and throw and scream. But like, make sure that you're staying really present with your body. Just be with it and allow it to be there, and don't make it bad. Don't make it mean anything about you, because the only thing it means is that you're a human and that you're having a normal human reaction to a human experience. So allow that to be. And then when that's done, the new thoughts, the new actions, the shifting the state, all of those things are going to be so much easier.
I'm letting it sink in. Because I had someone the other day on the podcast that I did, she recommends the same thing. She said, journal, just journal and journal and journal. And you hear it a lot, journal, 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 journal. And I used to do it and I stopped. And I was looking, as you were saying that, and asking the questions, looking at the feeling, because I don't journal. I don't sit with my emotions. I don't know what I do with them. They just exist. I think they just get, I think that it's kind of like they're on a Velcro ball, and an emotion comes up and I go, yep, okay. And then I stick it on a Velcro ball, and then I throw the Velcro ball at another Velcro wall. And so the Velcro ball just sticks to the Velcro wall. And I've just got this big wall that's just covered in all of these emotions, but they're never ever. So I'll see them, but I never feel them. I never feel them. I just throw them on a wall and go, yeah, I can see you. Thanks.
If you
But
turn
then,
away from the wall and you look at your life, look at what a powerful creator you are. All of these amazing things that you've created in your life to keep you distracted from your Velcro wall.
yeah,
Like that's how committed you are to trying to keep yourself safe.
yes. To try not to feel the emotions that I probably need to feel. Yes, yes.
Right.
I have a lot of
Because
mechanisms, a lot of safety mechanisms, that a lot of different things that I've set up that go, if and if one of the balls falls, then it goes somewhere else. It goes into Pandora's box, or it goes behind a big metal cage. Like there are so many different aspects inside of me that I just, the constant protection and the constant protection.
Mhm. And in that protection, you build up walls that you can't even help yourself through.
Yeah. You build up walls for the walls because the walls get too big and then you need more walls.
So just be with what is within the
I don't
walls.
know if I know what that means.
Just be with what's there. Instead of throwing that ball at the wall, hold it in your hand.
Mm.
Hold it in your hand. Ask it where it lives in your body. Ask it why it's there. Ask it what it has to teach you. Ask it what it needs. Ask it how old it is. And feel it. And it's going to be uncomfortable. There will probably be tears and pain. And guess what? That's the crumbling of the wall that allows you to get to the things that you want.
Mm.
That's emotional availability for yourself. That's the opposite of self-abandonment.
Okay. I'm sitting here. I can feel this part of me is just squirming. It's like this little, I don't know, it must be like 5 or 6 year old going, no, don't make me do it. I don't want to.
Because it's uncomfortable and
It
there's so
really
much
is.
societal conditioning around that. But the thing is, like, emotions themselves cannot physically harm you. We do so much more physical harm to ourselves avoiding our emotions than we do actually feeling them.
Yeah, you're right.
And it's wild to me, like how prevalent it is. Because if you look at it, the top grossing industries of the world are the ones that keep us from feeling our feelings.
Yeah.
It's alcohol, crap food, drugs, the pharmaceutical industry, the beauty industry. If I just feel better and I'm attractive and I'm approved of by others or desired by others, then I don't have to worry about how shit I feel about myself, right? So like all of the top industries in the world are distractions
Yeah.
and coping mechanisms. So we're conditioned to not want to do this. We're conditioned to not want to feel our feelings. But the wild thing is that the physiological emotional response to something lasts for 90 seconds. So if you were just to sit with yourself and be present and be like, oh man, this feeling's coming up, I'm going to allow it. I'm going to allow it to come up and I'm going to feel it. What is it? Okay. And you're just really, you're sitting with it and you're processing, cry a little bit. That lasts 90 seconds. When it lasts longer than that, it's old. And it lasts longer because you've been holding it for longer. And it needs you to hold it in a different way, or it's not going to go away. But the deterioration of the body will, the disease will, the cancer will.
Mm. Yeah. Still don't want to do it. It's such a deep part. Still don't want to do it. But I hear you. And I really want to, I just really want to validate everything that you've shared because it's so true. It's, um, I think you get to a point where you don't have a choice. You know, you don't have a choice. Otherwise, the next step is either illness or death. You know that. You know, shit's going to hit the fan and it's going to be ugly. And that doesn't take away from how hard it is and how uncomfortable it is. And yeah, it's just hard and uncomfortable. But I really appreciate you sharing in such an authentic and honest way about what the process has been for you.
Yeah.
And how, and also validating how hard it is.
It's hard.
Because you don't get that very often. Like in the, you know, in the mindset world, you don't get the validation for how hard it is. People come out the other side and they go, hey, I came out the other side. It was really easy. Just do this. It's like, yeah, it's not that easy.
Yeah, it's wild. There was an important piece that I wanted to add. When you're doing all of this work, it is so much more powerful when you're not doing it alone. When you're doing the emotionality work, there's something really mystical and really magical that happens when you are going into these deep places and you're doing it in the loving and compassionate presence and support of another human. This healing mechanism kicks on when there's another human that's there for you, that's holding space for you. It's great when that person is trained in safety and support and tools for this type of thing. And it's just this wild healing thing that just activates when there's another person present and they get to witness you in those states and hold you through those states and love you in those states.
Yeah.
It is powerful. It is more I mean, I even said, like, this is my work right now. Like allowing not just holding myself, but allowing myself to be held by other people as well, my process, because that is where I saw things really change in a short period of time. Even like last year, I did a 9-month trauma resolution program last year. And the teacher was very much of the mindset, like, you can only take others as far as you're willing to go and as far as you've gone. So we're going through your own process this whole entire time. Not only are you learning to be a practitioner, but you're also going to be a client and go through all of your own shit. And I did. And it was the first time that I had done it as the client, and I had let somebody else hold me. I'd been holding myself all that time, and I'd been doing that work for 4 years. And yeah, I'd had progress, and yes, I'd strides. But in 9 months of being held by someone else in my process, I mean, was it hard? Yeah, there were days that I was like, why did I do this? But also now I'm like, wow, I collapsed so many patterns and timelines and did so much healing in 9 months that I've been working on for years. And then sometimes those things come back because healing's not linear. It's like this vortex. And as we heal, we only say, like, this is a pattern, right? This is the worthiness thing. As the vortex gets bigger, you hit it less often.
Yeah.
And you have a different relationship to it. So now I can hit it, and I have tools, and I have compassion for myself. And I allow myself to feel it and to process it. And it's just completely different. So I do want to say that it's just so important to not feel like you have to do this work alone. To not just hold yourself. And I think that there's even the vulnerability in saying, like, I'm worth getting the support. I'm worth someone else's time. I'm worth someone else's expertise. I'm worth that.
Spending the money, that's a big one.
Yeah.
I'm worth using my money on something for me, as opposed to bills, phone, internet, car, insurance, animals, kids. Like, when do we allow ourselves, especially single parents, like, when do we allow ourselves to spend money on something that's not an essential.
But if we're talking about like something changes or I'm not going to make it, how much more essential does it get?
Mm. Yeah.
And where there's a will, there's a way. It just involves, one of my favorite affirmations is like, show me how easy it can be. Show me how easy it can be.
Mm.
And then I'm solution oriented. I've gotten really creative at coming up with solutions for things. And then as soon as I like open it up past this is my current reality, this sucks, these are my blocks, these are my issues, and I'm like, show me how easy it can be. I'm going to find the solution. I'll just get an idea and I'll follow it, and then there's the solution. And it was so easy.
I love that. I'm sticking that on my wall. Mine is if I'm ever asking for something, I always ask for it to come with ease and grace.
Mm-hmm.
Ease and grace. Please bring it with ease and grace. Especially more so now than ever before, because I didn't for a long time, and things came with a baseball bat or a struggle or hard. So now it's no, and I get that's the pattern. That's the pattern when you think things are hard, things are a struggle, things should come hard. You're meant to struggle. Life is meant to be hard. When you have that belief and you have that story, things will come to you that way unless you ask for it to come in a different way. If you don't ask, then you can only receive in the way that how you feel about yourself and the vibration that you're sending out and thoughts and the feelings and the patterns and the beliefs. That's what you're attracting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. This has been such a good conversation. It's exactly what I needed today.
Good.
Can you share, you have a retreat coming up?
I know that there will be one. I think I just really need to update my Facebook banner. Because that was last year's. Oh
That
God.
was last year. What are you doing? What are you doing this year?
I have a nervous system regulation masterclass coming up in March.
Mhm.
I have a mastermind launching soon called Deep Self Exploration. It's actually it'll be self-exploration for local people in Nashville, but I'm also figuring out a way to do it for people not local and still make it awesome.
Mhm.
And then here pretty soon, I'll be launching a community program in which we participate in somatic activated healing. And we do a lot of deep dives into the wounds, the father wound, mother wound, sister wound, abandonment, betrayal, rejection, injustice. And we'll be talking, there'll be a wound a month, and we'll talk about like how this has shown up in our lives, how it's affected us, the patterns that have resulted from these wounds, and what we can do to heal. And then it will be weekly somatic activated healing sessions to process these things, to process the hurt, to process the pain, and also shift our state.
Send me the link. When you have it, send me the link.
Yeah. I'm in like a match up a bunch of stuff right now. I also do human design. And I had a few human design clients pop in the last week. So I'm working on getting that stuff wrapped up. And then I have a 50 plus page book and journal for anxiety that I'm almost finished writing. And I'm giving that as a part of the nervous system regulation masterclass. So I'm trying to get that finished up while my assistant works on the back end stuff for the nervous system regulation class. And then the focus will be getting the community up and running. And I want that to be accessible and powerful and profound.
I think it will be.
It will. That's what I intend.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So many thank yous.
It's my deep pleasure.